Good afternoon, everyone. It's me, Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions Den Boxing community. Shout out to the greatest university in the world, the Southern University, home of the mighty Jaguars. This is episode 31 of Bayou Sports Talk. Let me introduce y'all to my co-hosts, Raymond, King Ray, speak to the people.
What's up, y'all? It's Raymond King Ray, living life like a king. Yeah, excited about doing the show today. Excited about the people, who's watching the live stream. We eager and we like y'all comments. We like when y'all add y'all input into the conversation. It's not like first take where they just talking. It's like, we want to interact with our audience. So, we got some good topics for y'all today. We're hoping that y'all continue to tune in.
Okay. We're going to give the people an excellent show today. But before we even get going, first and foremost, let's give a shout out to the chat. Relaxing, calm rain. Say, let's go. Appreciate you for tuning in. Motivation to be a millionaire. Jaguar Nation, stand up. So we appreciate y'all. We appreciate everybody that's coming through, to show some love. We appreciate everybody that's been rocking with us since day one. Everybody that tuned in and, just came and joined the chat, watching the live stream, watching the playback, whatever the case may be. So we appreciate y'all to the fullest. And without y'all, we have no show. So let's get into the topics. First topic we're going to talk about is boxing news. And we talked about this a few weeks back in terms of Bud Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. situation. It's kind of been official for a minute now. We didn't address it on a previous show. However, it's official at this point. Terrence Bud Crawford, he kind of made it clear that there will be no rematch with Errol Spence Jr. The reason being is because, of course, first and foremost, he was upset about Errol Spence Jr. Basically, he felt he was making excuses for why he didn't win in that fight because, one, he had a rib injury. I think he had a dislocated rib or whatever the situation was. I mean, you could see he showed a picture of it. So he had a rib issue. And in addition to that, we know he had a detached retina at one point. I think on that same eye, he had some cataracts. So he had cataract surgery to get those cataracts removed. I think he had the cataract surgery like a few weeks ago. And, he was saying that was part of the reason why he was getting hit with so many straight left hands and left hooks because he didn't see the punches coming. And I guess Terrence Crawford used that as an excuse for, not doing a rematch. And then in addition to that, he was contractually obligated to fight a rematch. However, Showtime was the network and the platform that the fight was on. And no longer, Showtime is no longer doing boxing, no longer in the sport of boxing. And as a result, there's no platform for it to be on. The PBC, they transitioned and went from Showtime, they went to Amazon Prime. And I guess since, Showtime is no longer in the business of boxing, maybe that contract is kind of null and void. And of course, part of the issue is PBC fighters have been extremely inactive. I think maybe because they gave so much guaranteed money to Canelo, so much upfront money, that was a huge part of their boxing budget. And as a result, basically you have fighters that's only fighting once a year. So that was the reason why there was such a huge gap between Errol Spence Jr.'s fight with Terrence Bud Crawford in his previous fight, his unification bout. But I know part of it was the fact that he didn't want to fight any other fight until he fought Bud Crawford. And, he went against the wishes of his team and he gave the boxing fans the fight they want. However, in turn, it seems like he, since he got the cataract situation, he had surgery on it, got the cataracts removed. Basically, he did Bud a solid, but Bud is not going to return the favor. So what are your thoughts on this particular situation, Raymond?
Man, I think it's not fair, especially since it was in the contract. I know the contract probably isn't like the contract probably is like you it's like it's probably null and it's void because it's no longer with Showtime. But man, it's almost like since it's in writing, since it's in black and white, to some degree that gotta be upheld, and I felt like they should have put that in the paperwork, to where like no matter what happens with the media aspect of the sports of boxing, that this rematch clause will still be guaranteed no matter what, But I know stuff like that. That's like that's lawyer language. That's all that stuff that's in the paperwork and all that stuff like that. But still in all, I feel like something to that magnitude. And they probably never thought like, oh, what if Showtime no longer doing boxing? But still in all, I feel like it's Spike Lee. It's the right thing to do. Do the right thing, man. Your man is rematch, but I wonder what Terrence Crawford gonna go after next. Like, what are you gonna do next? Because I feel like after him beating Errol Spence the way he did, he can't go back and fight some chumps. You got to continue to build on that, that legacy. Um, and some people they didn't even want to see the rematch, but somebody like me, I did. But I guess it's time for them to if Terrence Crawford say he not gonna rematch him ever at all, just them two go their different paths and don't worry about the rematch. And if it's meant to be, trust me, they'll bump heads again sometime down the road. But as much as as me, you, a bunch of other people want to see that fight, that rematch, we ain't tripping on it. It is what it is.
Well, you brought up a valid point because basically Terrence Crawford, he wished Errol Spence Jr. well, but he said he's chasing greatness. So you say he can't fight against a chump? You're right. And the fight that he's going after now is Jerron Boots Ennis, from what I'm understanding. Jerron Boots Ennis is the IBF welterweight champion. Of course, Terrence Bud Crawford was undisputed. A lot of Jerron Boots Ennis fans felt like he was kind of left out in the cold, but people don't realize like the Terrence Bud Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. fight, it was the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, probably outside of Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. So outside of Wilder Joshua, that fight was the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, in my opinion. And basically, Bud is saying he's chasing greatness. EJ, I mean, he don't seem too like upset about it, but I think maybe kind of in the back of his mind, he might be kicking himself because people don't realize, when we talked about it on the show, Rude Dog was right from the standpoint that Bud won. However, EJ's team told him, like, hey, if I was you, I would just go in a different direction. Because clearly you're the A side. When it came to like pay-per-view numbers and that type of thing, Errol Spence Jr. was clearly and by far and away the A side in terms of the money he was able to generate leading up to that fight and other previous fights. Whereas even though Bud Crawford was pound for pound the best fighter in the world, he really didn't generate numbers that much and he really didn't move the needle. And, the analogy I always use, people don't realize when Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather Jr. fought, when they fought years ago, Floyd Mayweather Jr. was the more decorated fighter in terms of accolades and achievements and being pound for pound, the much better fighter. However, in terms of being a box office attraction, Oscar De La Hoya was far and away the biggest star of the two. And what Floyd Mayweather Jr., what he had to do to get in that particular situation to become the A side moving forward, he had to take sharp money. And when I say sharp money, it was a 70-30 split in favor of Oscar De La Hoya. And Terrence Bud Crawford, for whatever reason, like his ego wouldn't allow him to take short money. He said it was either 50-50 or nothing. And I think he understood from a bargaining standpoint, he had a little leverage because he knew this was the last belt to become undisputed. And of course, he leveraged, and I mean, even in terms of the ring walk aspect of it, you'll figure somebody like EJ, he would be the second fighter to come out. He had 3 or 4 belts. He was the biggest star. Even that, Bud was even able to negotiate that in terms of, hey, to determine who's going to come out second, we're going to decide about coin flip. And Bud won. So not only did he win a fight, but he won a negotiation across the board. And the fact that PBC really, they kind of let some of their fighters down from the standpoint of they had long layoffs. A lot of these fighters, Errol Spence Jr. being one of them. Yeah, it's just kind of a travesty, and it kind of shows that maybe Errol Spence Jr. team was right. Even though from a boxing standpoint, as fans, we won because we got the fight we wanted. In the long run, it kind of cost him, and it kind of goes to show you in the sport of boxing, like the good guys really get punished. If you look at, three of my four favorite fighters, and I made it clear all the time, and all of my favorite fighters are Deontay Wilder, Errol Spence Jr., Devin Haney, and of course I like Regis Prograis because he a local guy. Basically, if you look at those three fighters at the top, basically Deontay Wilder, when it came to the Tyson Fury saga, people don't realize because Anthony Joshua didn't want to fight Deontay Wilder. Basically, he went the Tyson Fury route. Tyson Fury was overweight. He was out of the sport of boxing. He was on drugs, whatever the case may be. And Deontay Wilder reached down and picked him up, and he dusted him off, and he gave him a shot. And he gave him a 50-50 split in addition to that. And you see how that situation turned out in terms of Tyson Fury cheating him and trying to, run away from the rematch. And in addition to that, if you look at this situation with Spence, and not only that, if you look at Devin Haney's situation where he's actually trying to fight the best fighters, but you got these Shakur Stevenson fans who really don't like him. You have these Tank Davis fans that really don't like him. So I think in the sport of boxing, the best fighters, they get punished, for doing right by the sport and trying to not get as much money as they possibly could get, but more than anything, trying to create a legacy for themselves in terms of, fighting the best fighters. So in addition to that, in terms of the Errol Spence Jr. situation, in terms of this particular aspect of our boxing news, you had anything else you want to elaborate on in terms of anything you want to give any input on, or you just want to keep the boxing news going?
Let's keep going.
All right. In terms of other boxing news, all right, we already talked about how and that's the main thing too. Let's be clear about the sport of boxing. I like boxing, but as boxing fans, we don't get the fights that we really want. If you look at Canelo Alvarez, he's not really trying to fight David Benavidez. David Benavidez, but in all actuality, he's the number one contender for Canelo Alvarez, and Canelo Alvarez is not trying to fight him. From what I'm understanding, in terms of from a Terrence Bud Crawford standpoint, he's gonna try to fight Jerron Boots Ennis, and he's gonna try to become undisputed again in the welterweight division. And since Jamel Charlo went up to 168 and he fought Canelo, now he's coming back down. He's got stripped of most of those belts. So more than likely, if Bud is able to beat Jerron Boots Ennis and become undisputed again, I don't think he's gonna fight Charlo. I think he's probably gonna go after Canelo. And knowing Canelo, he probably gonna try to fight the other Charlo, and then maybe try to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. So it's crazy how somebody like Canelo Alvarez, he's not held accountable for not fighting the best fighters. I mean, he's a clear-cut duck. Whereas if you look at somebody like Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Bud Crawford, Devin Haney, they punished for trying to fight the best possible fights. Now, in terms of other boxing news, Tank Davis, he really doesn't have an opponent yet for his upcoming fight. More than likely, he's going to be the first fight with PBC's new deal on Amazon Prime. But, there's been some controversy in terms of, him not really wanting to fight Devin Haney because basically Leonard Ellerby is saying Devin Haney is too big, even though these two fighters were in the same weight class for years and they never fought each other. So it's crazy how, like, the Tank Davis fans, they keep moving the goalposts and they keep defending Tank no matter what he does in his particular situation. And in terms of Shakur Stevenson, I don't know if you heard this, but he's kind of fake retiring at this point. Have you heard this yet, Raymond?
Nah, this is news to me.
Well, basically what happened is he's trying to get a unification fight, and he's not able to get his unification fight in 135-pound division. And as a result, of course, he's been getting a lot of backlash because, uh, it's been more Devin Haney slander. Basically they came out with a story of, when they were on a boxing team, I guess, Olympics or whatever the case may be, nationals or whatever. Basically, another fighter slapped another fighter slapped Devin Haney, and basically he was like, "Hey, you should try to go get go fight him, this, that, and the third." Now, the fighter in question is a 154-pound fighter. So if Devin Haney wanted to fight this particular fighter, he would have to move up from the weight class he's at. He would have to move up 2 weight classes. And then, of course, some of Tank fans were like, "Hey, instead of you trying to pick on Tank, why don't you try to go fight Jerron Boots Ennis?" Jerron Boots Ennis is the IBF welterweight champion. So it's like these two guys, they don't want to fight each other. Well, Shakur probably wants to fight Tank, but Tank has no interest in fighting Shakur Stevenson. He has no interest in fighting Devin Haney. So it's more nonsense in terms of the sport of boxing. What are your thoughts about, because I know you're a UFC fan, and you've been saying for years, like, that's the reason why UFC is surpassed boxing from the standpoint of the UFC, y'all get all the best fights y'all want, whereas in the sport of boxing, we don't, the best fighters don't fight the best fighters. And then lastly, of course, it seems as if Shakur Stevenson is trying to, even though he's fake retired at this point, he's trying to steal Ryan Garcia from Devin Haney, because since the negotiations with Adrian Broner and Devin Haney fell through, and the negotiation between Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero, they fell through. Ryan Garcia doubled back to Devin Haney, and now he's trying to fight Devin Haney. But now Shakur Stevenson is trying to, I guess, poach Ryan Garcia from Devin Haney. So what are your thoughts on all of this, like, boxing news in terms of the 135 and 140-pound division I just gave you? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think the main issue with Javante Davis, why a lot of people don't be want to fight him, is that hydration clause. You hit almost every opponent that he fights, they that's the main thing they complain about. It's like the rehydration clause and stuff like that. And I know, like, making weight in the UFC, they make weight a day before the fight. But in boxing, they make weight like the day of the fight.
No, it's the day before the fight. But like you said, a lot of times fighters rehydrate. Just say, for example, when Devin Haney, he moved up to 140 to fight Regis for Regis' WBC title. They made weight the day before the fight, so he was 140.
Right, but
a lot of people
have to fight.
A lot of people was complaining the fact that Devin rehydrated up to like 160, 165. So that was the big thing. But they were saying that people do this all the time in the sport of boxing.
Yeah,
you make weight
in UFC.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't understand what the big deal is. And even if you look at Tank, Leonard Ellerby said Tank could make 130. Now, people don't realize when Tank Davis was at 126, Tank Davis was at 130. Tank Davis missed weight twice. So the fact that Leonard Ellerby is saying that he could make 130, that's not true. He missed weight at 130. That was one of the reasons why he moves up to 135. And in terms of his walk-around weight, man, they say Tank has been as high as, in terms of walk-around weight, he's been as high as 180. And not only that, people don't realize he fought at 140 for a title. So, this whole nonsense that Devin Haney is too big for him, if they said Devin Haney was too good for him, yeah, that'll be true. But in terms of too big, like, I disagree with that. I mean, don't get me wrong, Tank is short in terms of height, but in terms of actual weight, I don't think he is as small as people say he is. But back to what you were saying, Raymond.
Yeah, like a lot of people, they complain about that rehydration clause. So whenever they fight them, but I feel like the thing with boxing is not the fact that UFC fighters, like UFC fans and MMA fans, we get the fights that we want. Like, it was even points where it's like you got Bellator and the PFL and other like MMA fight leagues. It's like they fighters starting to come to the UFC, and Dana White is making that possible. But it's just, the fact is, a lot of boxers, they talk a lot of trash on the internet and they don't do nothing. It's like, at least, like, if UFC fighters talk trash on the internet it's an 80% chance that they're gonna end up fighting each other at some point down the line. But it's almost like now it's like they do everything for clout. Like most boxers are like clout,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's almost like not only it's mainly they not doing no harm to each other, they doing harm to fans because it's like it's almost like y'all teasing the fan. It's like we could go on Twitter, we could see Devin Haney and Javante Davis going at it. You would think, oh man, these dudes about to fight, but it's just they just running their mouth like some, like some females on the internet. And it's like, that's the thing that personally irritates me the most is like whenever I'm on YouTube and you see controversy with like Jerron Boots Ennis and Terrence Crawford, and it's like, all right, y'all doing all this trash talking, somebody sign the paperwork and get the fight on. Y'all, like, I follow Boots Ennis, Terrence Crawford on Instagram, and they post themselves training all the time. I'm like, y'all doing all this training, y'all not doing no fighting. So I feel like that's the thing that kind of irritates me the most. It's not the fact that I guess you could say is boxing fans don't get the fights that they want, but it first have to start with the boxers. So you know what I'm saying? It's not
Mhm.
because if the boxers actually went to the promotions like, hey, we want this fight, and the both fighters went to if both of the fighters went to their respected promotions and really
Like Errol Spence Jr.
and really push for the fight to happen,
Yeah,
the fights will happen. The promotion's trying to make money. And if you ask me, and I'm pretty sure you would agree, promotions want these big fights to happen, right?
they do.
All
They
right.
do.
So who holding the fights back? The fighters themselves. And that's kind of where you kind of see what Dana White took that leverage away from the UFC fighters. The UFC fighters don't have that leverage. Like, look, if you don't want to fight, you can leave from out the UFC. Dana White has showed that it's backfired on him with Francis Ngannou. But
Mhm.
it's like, hey, you can't. He does give, like, if you're a superstar like Israel Adesanya or something, you could have a say so in who you want to fight. But if you like in the lower tier, you really can't have a say so in who you fight. You fight who he tell you to fight, which is good and bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you want fighters and athletes to have a say so on who they fight, but as you see in the boxing community, you can see how that could be negative when fighters have all the control in who they fight. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
just this is just speculations and like what ifs and just causing people to dream like, will this fight ever happen? And it's like that's the irritating thing about it. Like, let's just go ahead on, get the job done. Whoever lose. And it's like, and it's the last thing I'm gonna say. Boxers got to stop being afraid of losing that O. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at the UFC, all the greats got like 7 losses, 5 losses. You know what I'm saying? But like in the boxing community, it's like it's almost like everybody wants to follow after Floyd Money Mayweather, but it's like, man, it's not meant for every single boxer to do that. Go ahead on, do these fights. Whoever lose, and I'm happy Errol Spence did that. I'm happy Errol Spence did the fight. He got that one loss, and is anybody questioning Errol Spence's greatness?
No, not at all. And I'm not gonna lie, Raymond. You brought up so many excellent points. And first let's start with the rehydration aspect of it. Let's be truthful. Uh, he kind of stole that play out his playbook from really Canelo Alvarez. Don't get me wrong. Other fighters have done it in the past. Maybe even somebody like not even Floyd. Floyd really didn't do that, but Canelo Alvarez is one fighter that's synonymous for doing that. Because we talk about how he's ducking David Benavidez. Canelo is the type of guy he would let David Benavidez move up from super middleweight to light heavyweight, and basically once David Benavidez has moved up, then he would try to pull him back down when he can no longer make the weight, and then add a rehydration clause in his contract to keep him from being at his best the night of the fight. Canelo Alvarez is that type of fighter, you know what I'm saying? He wants every competitive advantage he can get. And I'm like, if you as great as people say you are, then why not just, fight the best possible competition that you could fight instead of just constantly being a duck? So at the end of the day, I think, you know, I don't think he is as great as people say he is. And then you got to realize you right from the Floyd Mayweather Jr. aspect of it. When I think of Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s career, I think of 2 phases of it. The first phase was the pretty boy Floyd Mayweather phase, where he was a phenomenal fighter. I think that from a fighting aspect of it, I think that was when he was at his absolute best. And in addition to that, he fought the best possible competition. Then he realized he wasn't making as much money as he could. And then he transitioned to the Money Mayweather aspect of it, the Money Mayweather phase of his career, where he didn't fight the best possible competition like he did early in his career, but he made so much more money. And I think Tank Davis adopted that same blueprint, because you got to realize, even though people say they parted ways, I don't care what nobody say. Tank is still a Floyd Mayweather Jr. fighter. I don't care what anyone says. And that same blueprint that that uh that a lot of these fighters believe in terms of, you got to realize, Floyd Mayweather Jr., for long stretches of his career, you know, before he got on the back half of his career, he fought under what his name? I can't think of the old guy name. He fought under Top Rank, right? So Top Rank has the philosophy that black fighters really don't sell, right? So instead of, putting two black fighters against each other, they believe you have to have a black fighter and a Hispanic fighter. They believe you have to have a black fighter and some other nationality, primarily Mexican fighters or some type of Hispanic fighter. And you got to realize, if you look at, and not only that, but they didn't want their top fighters to fight against like slick black fighters, because they feel like they were at greater risk for losing those fights. So if you look at the second half of Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s career, if you look at all the fighters he fought where he generated all this money, he didn't fight fighters like Winky Wright. He didn't fight fighters like Paul the Punisher Williams. No, he fought fighters like Marcos Maidana and Manny Pacquiao. So Tank has that same mindset. First of all, Tank has never fought the best competition. He never fought Tevin Farmer. He never fought Mr. Gary Russell Jr. He never fought Vasil High-Tech Lomachenko. He didn't fight all of these. Like, he didn't fight the best fighter in no weight class, whether it was 126, whether it's 130, 135. He never fought the best competition. And not only that, he never really fought black fighters, to be truthful. So at the end of the day, I think Tank is fighting for money. Tank is not really fighting for legacy. Whereas if you look at a fighter like Devin Haney is fighting for legacy. So I think that's the difference between Tank and Devin Haney. And I think, truthfully speaking, I think Tank, because I don't know if you heard this, but Manny Pacquiao is talking about coming back and he wants the Tank fight. And I'm thinking to myself, Manny, you too old at this point. You've been retired for how many years? Like, just leave Tank alone. Like, you don't want those kind of problems. But the type of fighter Tank is, Tank would try to fight Manny Pacquiao, or he would try to get Monster Inoue to move up to like 130, 135 and fight him. He would prefer those type of fights where they're huge money fights, as opposed to fighting a fight maybe against a Shakur Stevenson or Devin Haney. Well, those fights are more legacy fights. I mean, that's just my opinion. But I think the proof is in the pudding. I don't think we're going to ever get to Devin Haney versus Tank Davis fight. And Devin Haney, he's acknowledged that Tank is the A side in terms of being a star and generating money and that type of thing. He's willing to do whatever it takes to get the fight into the ring. Because he said, whatever deal you gave Ryan Garcia, I'll take that same deal there. But, of course, Al Hammond keeps talking about the money aspect of it. And basically, when it comes down to it, the Money Mayweather team and Tank's team and Leonard Ellerby, they don't believe in paying black fighters. It's just the truth of the matter.
You know something that I noticed?
What?
Boxing fans talk more about the paperwork, business side of boxing more than the actual fights. And I feel like that's the negative side of boxing.
It's crazy.
It's like y'all majority of when y'all talk about boxing, you would expect to talk more about like how this person, what tactics and game plan they use to beat this particular fighter. But it's like most of the time it's just how the fight even gets set up. It's like it's more tactics on the get the fight set up rather than tactics on how they actually win the fight. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, do I even understand how the UFC contracts work and how they make fights? And I'm like, I never really had to care about that. But I'm
Yeah,
like, now I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, dog, y'all know exactly how the tactics go into picking fights and making fights. And I'm like, that shouldn't be. I guess it should. It's even like with the NFL. We don't really, I guess you could understand how NFL, NBA contracts work, but it's like once the contract side of it over with, we really don't care about it no more. But it's like, man, it seemed like with boxing, it really is all about the money when you think about it. It's
it
like
is.
they will fight particular people for a promotion from a promotion standpoint. It's like, hey, I know this guy's the best fighter and he deserves to fight me, but I'm gonna fight this smaller guy because it's gonna cause more publicity and all this stuff like that. And it's like, man, now I know that's kind of just like not a random thought, but like that's just a side thought. And I'm like, I just realized it at this moment. I'm like, man, that's kind of crazy. Is the fact, like, as boxing fans, we got to discuss more of the business aspect of the sport rather than the
Actual
actual
fight.
like fight
Yeah.
itself.
But I mean, you brought up a point, an excellent point earlier. You say, that's the bad thing about, fighters not being able to choose, you know, who they fight in the UFC. But in the boxing is a detriment. Just imagine, right, in the NFL, just say, the Kansas City Chiefs, they won division champion in the AFC, and the Ravens another division champion in the AFC, and then in the NFC you have the Lions and you have the 49ers, right? And instead of the Kansas City Chiefs saying, you know what, instead of us playing the Ravens, you know what, guess who we gonna play? We gonna play, I don't know, maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers. And instead of Ravens saying, nah, instead of us playing the Kansas City Chiefs, you know what?
They're gonna play the Denver Broncos.
You're gonna play the Denver Broncos. And over here in the NFC, instead of Detroit Lions saying, instead of us playing the San Francisco 49ers, you know what? We're gonna play the New Orleans Saints. And instead of the 49ers saying, instead of us playing the Detroit Lions, you know what? Guess who we gonna play? We gonna play, I don't know.
Chicago Bears.
Yeah, the Bears. So that's what it is in the sport of boxing. So that's why it's good if you look at the NBA, the NFL, any other league, the best has to fight the best. But in boxing, you can pretty much cherry pick. You can hand pick your opponents. We talked earlier. I was talking about David Benavidez, but you got a fighter like David Morrell. He fights in the same division. He fights at 168, which is super middleweight. He fights in the same division as Canelo Alvarez. It's David Benavidez. It's David Morrell Jr. Now another one. He pushing for this Benavidez fight. And he's a champion now, but he only has maybe 10 fights. Now, of course, we know somebody like Canelo, he wants no smoke with David Benavidez whatsoever. But if a fighter, there's part of the reason why some of these fighters, they don't fight the best competition. So just say somebody like David Morrell, he does fight against David Benavidez. I'll be truthful. David Benavidez is going to dog walk David Morrell Jr. So if and when he fights him, a lot of these David Morrell Jr. fans see he wasn't that good anyway. He really ain't fighting nobody. So that's why a lot of these fighters, they're really not concerned about fighting the best competition, like a Devin Haney, like a Earl Spence Jr., like a Deontay Wilder. Because a lot of your fans, they're bandwagon jumpers to begin with. They'd rather be right than ride with a team. I mean, just think about it. Somebody like myself, I've been a New Orleans Saints fan my entire life. I've been a Southern University fan my entire life. I've been to so many Southern University games, it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And if you gave me a choice between going to a Southern University game and maybe going to a Super Bowl in the NFL, I'm still going to go to Southern University game. That's how much of a dedicated, loyal fan I am. So the point I'm trying to make is, these fans nowadays, they don't have no loyalty. They'd rather be right. Because I heard this one dude online, this rapper telling me he never took no L's and dude, if you play long enough in this sport, if you fight long enough, whatever you do, you're going to lose at some point. You can't win 100% of the time. And like you said with the Floyd Mayweather Jr. aspect of it, it's like once he got to a certain point in his career, I think he was more concerned about protecting his O than actually fighting the best possible competition. He was concerned about making the most money than actually fighting the best possible competition. And I think that's what we're going wrong with the sport of boxing. Me, I want the best to fight the best. And I'm going to be truthful. That's why a lot of fans like myself, we focus more on, HBCU football, HBCU sports, NFL and NBA than we do boxing. This the show we probably talk more about boxing than any other show that we ever done. And I think that's the issue, the fact that boxing, we as fans we love the sport of boxing, but boxing doesn't love us back. Just think about all the fights we really want. We won't see David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez. We can't get that fight. We want to see Deontay Wilder fight against Anthony Joshua. We really can't get that fight. So we can't get the fights we want to see. Now I think that's why a lot of boxing fans we discontent with the sport of boxing. Now in terms of the chat, salute to my brother Jared 11 Green. He says salute family. And for everybody out there within the sound of my voice that's watching, please come support myself and my brother Jared 11 Green. It's his channel, it's his show. I'm his co-host, one of his co-hosts. Tomorrow on the Southern Baller Show, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Typically, we start between 7 and 7:30. We talk about HBCU sports. We talk about college football. We talk about HBCU football. We talk about NFL. We talk about boxing. We talk about a variety of different sports topics. However, we primarily are a football show. So, check out my brother and myself, Jared Lovin Green, tomorrow on the Southern Baller Show. Also, another one of our family members, Living Big with Big Reg. He say, what's good, everybody? Salute to you, bro. So salute to Jared Lovin Green, Living Big with Big Reg. Before you clicked off, Raymond, basically we just saying that's the reason why, a lot of boxing fans have drifted away from the sport of boxing, and we kind of dabble more in the other sports like NFL and NBA and college football, because in those sports, the best, have to fight the best, or the best have to play the best. Whereas in boxing, you got somebody like Tank. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Tank fan. And truthfully speaking, if you, just for example, if I had to bet money, I would bet that Tank would beat Vasil High-Tech Lomachenko. He would beat Loma. But evidently, he don't believe in himself like that. Because he never, Loma been calling him out for years. He wanted no smoke with Loma. Devin Haney been calling him out. He wanted no smoke with Devin Haney. So it's like, bro, you don't believe in yourself as much as a lot of your fans believe in you. And a lot of the real hardcore Tank supporters, like, they just keep making excuses for this dude. And I think that's another issue with the sport of boxing. Because, we talked about who's at fault. I think, the blame could be spread evenly in a lot of directions between a lot of these fans. There's more fans of one particular fighter more so than the sport of boxing. You got the networks. They're really not educated on the sport of boxing. So they give like stupid money to somebody like Canelo Alvarez, whereas you could evenly divide that money up amongst multiple fighters, like maybe like a Tank, like a Errol Spence Jr., like a Devin Haney, like a whoever, you know what I'm saying? So that's why if you look at somebody like PBC, that's why they don't have the money to pay a lot of fighters that they want. That's why they're trying to give Tank a short guarantee to fight some bum, as opposed to Tank getting a big money fight and going overseas to the Middle East to fight against Devin Haney. So, you could blame the fans, you could blame the promotional companies, you could blame the networks. HBO and Showtime went out of, they left the sport of boxing because, basically, you get all these championship fights, but I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of times, just say if you the WBC silver champion, all that really means is that you the number one contender. Essentially that guy has a belt and he has to pay sanctioning fees too. You know that, right? So it's crazy. So I mean, I know a lot of fighters. I know a lot of fans don't know that, but a lot of these guys that might be like the silver champion or the regular champion. You got two champions in the same division. I'm talking about for the same sanctioning body.
Yeah.
You could be the the WBA super champion, and you the real champion, and I could be the WBA regular champion. You might not have no mandatory, but I might have mandatory fighters, but we both paying sanctioning fees. To me, it's stupid, But all of these things we talk about like issues in the sport of boxing. So, you ready to move on to the next topic, Raymond?
Yeah.
All right. Salute to the brother, Jay Boy. Salute to you, bro. Salute, family, he said. All right, next topic. The NFC and the AFC championship game. for myself, Raymond, he did an excellent job saying that the Eagles was gonna collapse. He picked other, teams. I think you had more success than I have. I mean, for the exception of me picking the 49ers to beat the Packers and the Cowboys to lose in the first round, pretty much every other team I pick is the loss. So what are your thoughts on the AFC and the NFC championship game?
Uh, so because I think I predicted that the Mahomes and Lamar game was going to be more a defensive game, which it was, and the Lions and the 49ers was going to be a shootout
Yeah,
game, which
and it
it
kind of
ended up
was.
being a shootout game.
Yeah,
But so I predicted the 49ers and Lions game correctly, but man, like I predicted I feel no. I actually I did say that the Ravens and Chiefs game was going to be a defensive game, but I thought the Ravens was going to like just trample over the Chiefs, and that did not happen. The reason being, you can't trample over somebody when you keep shooting yourself in the foot, which is exactly what the Ravens did, and it was irritating. I was even talking to my pops on the phone, and he was just talking about how they just kept messing over them, like how the Ravens kept messing over themselves. Zay Flowers catching a beautiful deep ball. You know what I'm saying, but then you gonna stand over the dude. I don't think standing over the dude was what drew him the penalty. Is when he flicked the ball at him. But I feel like that kind of hurt them. Then he had a chance to redeem himself. Then he fumbled the ball into the end zone, which was a touchback. Then on the next possession, Lamar gets all the way down to the red zone, or just into the red zone, and throws an interception to Isaiah Likely, which Isaiah Likely put his hands up as if he was open. I'm like, yeah, you on top the dude, but to me, that's not open. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't open enough. And it's just they just kept doing things to hurt themselves. And it's like the defense, they literally held Patrick Mahomes to what, 17 points or 20 points or something like that. And it's like
yeah.
defense was doing their job, but yeah, that game kind of irritated me. It's really Lamar's time, but I don't know, bro. I wanted them to see him get a Super Bowl, but and also, even though I predicted the 49ers to win the game, 49ers shouldn't win that doggone game, man. The Detroit Lions ticked me off too, and I wasn't even rooting for them to win.
Yeah.
It's like you go up 24-0, man. You supposed to then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he won't be a troll and be like the game over when it's 24-0, and they didn't came back and whooped them. So it's like I go to show you, you don't want to talk too quickly. But that's just my thoughts on the NFC championship, on the AFC and NFC championship game.
Yeah. Well, first, in terms of the AFC championship game, of course, my brother, Jared O'Lovin Green, living big with Big Reds, they Ravens Nation fans, so they're huge Ravens fans. And basically, we talked about it heavily on his show last week. First and foremost, in terms of the Ravens, like they are a predominantly running team, and they really didn't stick with the running game whatsoever last week. Early in the game, they had a big run, like to kind of start off the game. Then thereafter, they just kind of abandoned the running game. One. Two, the Chiefs, they did a good job from a defensive standpoint in terms of, like, earlier they blitzed Lamar Jackson a lot. And then later on in the game, basically they did a excellent job creating a fence around the pocket and what we used to call, when I played, sugar rushing, where basically everybody stayed in their lane. Because when a lot of these teams, when they rush Lamar Jackson, it's like they get out their lanes and they all out rushing and they leave huge gaps. And that's what allows him to have all these running lanes and get all these big yards. But they did an excellent job keeping him in the pocket and making him throw the ball from the pocket. And if he held the ball too long, they would sack him or almost sack him. And, that was a huge issue. Like you said, defensively, the Ravens, they played well. But like you said, the penalties, the turnovers, they got a lot of stupid penalties. The Zay Flowers fumble, it cost them because, that was an opportunity to score. Like you said, Lamar Jackson throwing the interception. Those two turnovers are big. And, I don't know if you remember Brian Billick, who used to be the head coach for the Minnesota Vikings. But he had this book. it was this analytics book where basically they talked about explosive plays. They talk about the turnover battle. They talk about, if you throw a pick six, if the opposing team returns a interception for a touchdown, all of these things, basically, it determines the game like 80% of the time. Like if you lose a turnover battle by +2 or more, you're going to lose like 80% of the time. If you give up X amount of explosive plays and you don't have explosive plays to match, you lose like 70% of the time. So a lot of these things, in terms of these things that determine whether teams win or lose, all of those things went in the Chiefs' favor. So that was a huge part of the reason why the Chiefs won. Like you said, the Ravens, they shot themselves in the foot often in terms of just stupid penalties, bro. Like, man, you can't have these stupid penalties in a game of this magnitude. They lost the turnover battle, and then out of that, those 2 turnovers, they were huge from the standpoint of those could have been points that basically those points could have put you in position to either tie the game or even win the game if you convert touchdowns on both of those possessions. So that got them, and more than anything, it just seemed like the Chiefs. I don't know if you remember this back in the gap, but before they had the college football playoffs, we used to have what we call the BCS National Championship game. Because, in years past, like if you was a Big Ten team, you had to play against a Pac-12 team in the Rose Bowl. But once the BCS came into play, you wasn't relegated to that. It was the top 2 teams playing against each other. But at that point, you would have like a couple months or maybe a month or so before the number 1 team would play against the number 2 team. And then you would have a point where the number 2 team, they've been hearing for so long that, hey, y'all gonna get smacked in the national championship game. It seemed like for a good portion of it, the team that was the favorite would always lose because they reading their press clippings, they believe in the hype about themselves, and the team that's the underdog, they've been hearing y'all trash, they gonna whoop y'all behind, whoop the whoop. And it kind of seemed like the Chiefs, they came in, they punched the Ravens in the mouth, and I think the Ravens kind of was feeling themselves, and they didn't bring their A game. So, I was kind of disappointed. I wanted the Ravens to win that game. Even though I'm not a Ravens fan, I wanted Lamar Jackson to do well. And like you said, in terms of the NFC Championship game, I mean, one of my coaching friends, he basically said, man, coach, I think, I know you don't believe in conspiracy theories, so on and so forth. But like, I don't care what nobody says. It's all about betting to me. He said, I feel like that game was rigged. He said that's the second game that the 49ers should have lost and that they actually ended up winning. So, that was his perspective of it. He felt like basically the Lions should have won the game. And, for them to be up that big and for them to come back and lose, he felt like it's, Vegas pretty much control who win. And I'm like, nah, bro. I mean, you a coach, you should know. I mean, then I had games from a coaching standpoint where my team should have won and we lost and vice versa. So, sometimes you get up big and you blow the lead, Either you look at the Super Bowl with the Patriots and the Falcons. Man, hey, Falcons should have won that game. But, of course, I didn't like neither team, but I like the Falcons less than I like the Patriots because Falcons are a division rival, So, I mean, at the end of the day, those kind of things happen. Of course, I picked both games wrong. I picked the Lions to win, and I picked the Ravens to win, and both of those teams lost. So, in terms of, like, your Super Bowl prediction, like, who do you predict to win the Super Bowl, right?
Never bet against Mahomes. Me and my coworker told me that earlier during the football season. He said he never bets against Mahomes, and just don't bet against Mahomes, and don't bet against Taylor Swift. We, in all seriousness, man, the amount of money her and the Swifties have brought into the NFL gonna make sure they get like 50 shots of Taylor Swift winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's like I asked my dad, I'm like, Dad, do you know who Taylor Swift is? My dad don't know who Taylor Swift is. You know who Travis Kelce is. But at work, it's like they're talking about articles where it's like Taylor Swift is dating some football player. I'm like, no, Travis Kelce is dating some singer. Like,
yeah, arguably he the best tight end in the NFL. So I mean, that's crazy to me, bro.
Then you seen the mess with. They said Taylor Swift invented the swag surf.
Nah, not whatsoever. Not even close.
Man, yeah, they made an article saying that Taylor Swift created the swag surf, and it's like, man, we've been doing this dance for Bruh.
I don't know how long. And the crazy thing about it is, before he started dating her, I don't know if people realize, he had this black girlfriend and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah. I remember he had a black.
in a
They was
red,
married too, right?
huh?
It was married too, right? Or they was just
No, no,
dating.
no, no, no. I don't think they were ever married. They were. I think they were engaged, but I don't think they ever got married.
Okay.
And of course, in a lot of in some of the pro black spaces and some of the red pill spaces, especially like these women that have these some of these black women that have like that's divestors and say these a lot of these black guys not living up to par or whatever when it come to like the dating market or whatever the case may be. They was upset the fact that Travis Kelce broke up with her and started dating Taylor Swift. And I'm like, look, they weren't married, one. And second of all, like, I mean, he was a single man, so he went a different direction. So I mean, I, you know, I'm I, I'm not getting into that. I'm just talking about from a dating standpoint. Like he went a different direction, and I think the fact that he found another celebrity that may be arguably far more popular than he is, I guess for him is a win-win situation. But in terms of my Super Bowl prediction, basically, uh, I'm not gonna lie. I think this is one of the worst seasons for me in terms of picking. Pretty much all the teams I picked lost,
Yeah.
and so what I'm gonna do this for this particular pick, I'm gonna go against the grain. I'm not gonna pick the team I actually think gonna win. I'm gonna pick the team that because I'm having such a terrible time in terms of my track record. I'm gonna pick the 49ers because ordinarily I would say, hey, I'm not gonna go against the Pat Mahomes. I'm not gonna go against the Chiefs. But since everything I'm picking is
Wrong.
been failing miserably and been wrong, I'm gonna go against the grain. I'm gonna pick the 49ers. Of course, I kind of want the Chiefs to win. So all the teams I want to win been losing too. So for the most part, I think I'm gonna go against the grain for this particular one. Now, of course, Kay couldn't be on the show because she got some other stuff going on. Rude Dog, we were supposed to start our own thing for him, but we can't get up with him. His schedule been hectic lately. So in terms of she had it set up to where we had another open topic. So in terms of you, Raymond, are there any like open topics you want to discuss? Anything that you won't bring up and you won't converse and talk about in terms of our open topic portion of the show?
Uh oh, this is what I was thinking about earlier and yesterday. Man, you seen the stuff with Derek Carr and Michael Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of been seeing Micah Thomas. He kind of been going crazy on social media. Feel us in about his particular situation, right?
I mean, I like Mike T Dog, but this been going on for the past couple of years. It's like he get hurt in the middle of the season, then all of a sudden trigger fingers turn to Twitter fingers, bro. And it's like, it's at this point, I'm like, dog, just shut up. I don't know, and it's like he's causing a divide between Saints fans. Because it's like some people like, man, we need to get rid of Mike Thomas. And some people are like, Mike Thomas not the problem. We need to get rid of Derek Carr. Dog, before Derek Carr even came, Mike T was getting hurt and going on Twitter and tweeting all this stuff. Man, look, Mike T, we love you. When I'm at the point where I feel like I wouldn't be wrong if I said Drew Brees made Mike T. I wouldn't, because
No,
ever
you would be.
the moment Drew Brees left, Michael Thomas' value went down. And it's like, we might as well just say Drew Brees made him. And then the point when Mike T came into the league was when Drew Brees had the noodle on. So that means Drew Brees probably would rather throw the shorter passes to, I hate when people used to call him this, but slant boy, which is why Drew Brees threw him so many slants, because Drew Brees like, man, I'm about to throw all these short passes. But it's like, Derek Carr is not that quarterback. Derek Carr is not about if Derek Carr is going to throw a short pass, it's going to be out the backfield of somebody like Alvin Kamara. He's trying to go deep down the field, but essentially, I know I kind of gave like my personal opinions and stuff on Mike
No,
T.
no, no. Do what you do. Keep going.
So essentially, what happened is Micah T went on one of his infamous Twitter rants, and he basically said that, I'm paraphrasing this and I'm summing it up. He's blaming Derek Carr for his season-ending injury.
I
He
saw
said
that.
he would have easily had a light 1,000 yards if he would have never got hurt. Which honestly, I don't believe that. Was Shaheed there and Olave there? You wouldn't, unless you have somebody like Drew Brees that year where Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, and I think Willie Snead, both all three of them caught for over 900 yards. So I think Mike T caught for 1,000, Brandon Cooks caught for 1,000, and Willie Snead caught for like 900 and something. I
Yeah.
think it was in like 2014 or 15 or something. But still in all, I don't you wouldn't, even if he was healthy, Mike T, I don't think it would have made too much of a difference. But essentially he's blaming Derek Carr for this. And Derek Carr went on an interview and basically defended himself. And he's right for doing so, you know. He basically said like Mike T could have talked to me like a man. You know, and he said him and Mike T has had plenty of conversations, confrontations, altercations like real men. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we obviously seen it in the Jaguars game. Derek Carr has no issue with getting up in your face and, you know, telling you about whatever. So I'm pretty sure he's done it to Mike T several times, but he kind of put a little something out there where he basically said the Saints are basically trying to make Chris Olave the number one guy. And you know, with Michael Thomas getting hurt so much, and them low key pushing Michael Thomas out that number one spot to make Olave the number one receiver, it's causing them to be frustrated. And I guess he's relying on Twitter to, you know, take out his frustration.
I'm not gonna lie. First and foremost, I'm gonna just be truthful. Mike T is not that. He's no longer that guy. Like you said,
100% agreed. 100% agreed.
I agree 100% with you from the standpoint of I kind of feel like Breeze did make him because you got to realize, especially like the last couple seasons, Breeze was in New Orleans. He targeted Michael Thomas heavily. I mean, he went to Mike Thomas a lot. I mean, whether Thomas was open a lot, you know, even if you look at the game when they lost to the Vikings,
Boy, I was just about to say that.
they doubled him a lot.
Yes, that's the
In
reason why
fact,
they lost. That's why
even in that particular game, they left Ted Ginn Jr. open a lot, and they doubled Michael Thomas. And Breeze still tried to force a lot of stuff into Thomas. So first of all, you were right 100% in terms of, I think Breeze kind of made 100. That's why he was $100 million Mike, because Breeze targeted him so much. First of all, second of all, I saw when he said, the gist I got of it, essentially, we kind of saying the same, and we just kind of phrasing it differently. But he kind of blamed him for leading him into the pass that I think ended up injuring him for the season or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, dude, you already injury prone. Like, since he got paid, they showed the amount of games he played prior to him getting paid, and the amount of games he played after he got paid. And he played so many fewer games after he got the bag. And I'm like, bro, just go sit down and shut up, man. And this kind of reminds me so much of Brandon Cooks. I don't know if a lot of people remember. Brandon Cooks played for the Saints. And, he was a dog, early in his career. But then he got to a point where he felt like he wasn't getting enough touches. He felt like he would open a lot of plays and Breeze wasn't throwing the ball, this, that, and the third. And I'm like, dude, like, you're delusional. Don't get me wrong. You're a dog.
He started running his
Yeah,
mouth.
but I'm like, so shut up. So basically, he talked about how he wasn't getting targeted enough. And in addition to that, he wanted like a big, huge contract. So the Saints were like, you know what? Let's just make this easy for you. Let's just trade you to New England. Let's just keep it pushing. And that's how they ended up getting rid of him. And it was like, look at all the dogs that, I'm not gonna lie, there were guys that were all world in New Orleans. And then they ended up leaving and going somewhere else. Whether we talking about Jimmy Graham, whether we talking about Brandon Cooks, with the receiver from the Dolphins, that he traded to, Kenny Stills,
Willie Snead, Lance Moore.
Yeah, I mean, so like, come on, bro, man, just shut the
Matter
F
of
up.
fact, now that I think about it, what receiver has left New Orleans and been that same? Matter of fact, what offensive player, except for maybe you could say Mark Ingram, left and was like still the same good player?
I don't think he was the same player. I'm not gonna lie.
But just with the Ravens, he kind of played better because the Ravens ran the ball a lot. But I know when he went to Houston, I think
Oh, he was done. That's how you ended up back in New Orleans.
right. But like any other offensive player that played in New Orleans offense has left New Orleans and been the same player. I don't think no player has left New Orleans and been the same player.
I don't think. Because, I mean, even Graham, I'm like, well, maybe they're just using him wrong in Seattle. Then he went to Green Bay, and And then you got to realize, Breeze is not even in New Orleans. He's no longer in New Orleans. Like, he's retired. And he came back. Don't get me wrong. He's not the same Jeremy Graham he was before they traded him to Seattle. But, I mean, at least he still showed life this year. So maybe it's, him being in New Orleans more so than just Breeze getting him the ball, But more than anything, I kind of feel like Mike T should shut the F up. I'm going to be honest with you. I hate to say it. I think in this particular instance, I think Derek Carr is right. However, if I had to choose between the two players, I would choose Michael Thomas before I choose Derek Carr.
Wait. What you mean? Like personality, or like what you mean by choosing? Like importance to the team?
What I mean is Derek Carr is not a franchise quarterback.
Michael Thomas was a franchise receiver, but he's not that anymore.
I didn't say he was. I didn't say he was. My perspective is I'm gonna be truthful.
Yeah.
If it was me, I'd get rid of both Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. Now.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that Mike Thomas is right. Mike Thomas is wrong in this situation. I agree completely with Derek Carr. But at the end of the day, I prefer, if I had to choose between the two, I'll keep Micah Thomas and I'll get rid of Derek Carr. And like you said, I mean, if he think at this point in his career, if he think he better than Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, dude.
He's not even better than A.T. Perry, dog.
No, I'm going to be honest with you.
4 weeks, A.T. Perry was showing out. I'm like, Michael T. definitely not getting his spot back. A.T. Perry, goddamn.
And I'm going to keep it real. I think the Saints kind of gave, Shaq Davis a shot in the stick because I'm going to keep it 100.
Man, I forgot all about Shaq Davis. Did he?
Shaq, no, I think they had him on the practice squad, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And then you got Juwan Johnson too. Well, he played tight end. So never.
Yeah, he played tight end. Yeah. But I'm gonna keep it 100. And hey, if it was me, I'd have had Shaq Davis on the team over Kirkwood. I mean, Kirkwood was decent, but man, Kirkwood ain't no Shaq Davis. I mean, and I know some people are gonna be like, man, Coach, you're an HBCU fan. You like Southern and you like all these HBCU teams, and because of what he did in the Celebration Bowl against Jackson State, but the fact that what he did in the Celebration Bowl against Jackson State, man, I'm going to keep it 100. Shaq Davis is a dog. I don't care what nobody say. And even what he did in the preseason, to me, I'm like, well, dude, he going to make the team. When they were like, oh, he didn't make the team. I'm like, what? So, I mean, I was just kind of stunned. You know what I'm saying? So, but to the comment section, of course, my brother Jerry Loving Green, he was in agreement that basically, the Ravens, they should have won the game. They didn't, take care of business. He was saying that in addition to that, he was saying the offensive coordinator didn't stick to what they do the best. And, there's one thing I noticed from a coach standpoint over the years, especially like on a middle school level, is like a lot of teams, just say if you're a running team the whole year, you'll see teams get a championship game and they deviate from what got them to the big dance. And if a team was a passing team, they get to the championship game, they're deviated. They were synonymous for running from this one particular formation. And then they go to a different formation for the championship game. So me, from a coaching standpoint, I was always big on doing what got you to that point. And they abandoned the running game. We talked about it a lot on his show last Sunday. But, he was right from the standpoint that they just abandoned the running game. And living big with Big Reds, he was saying Anthony Weaver to the Dolphins is the defensive coordinator. I didn't see that. So, yeah, that's big. You know what I'm saying? So, that concludes that particular topic. Is there any, open topics or any other open discussions you wanted to bring up, Raymond, in terms of, just random topics that, we didn't have slated for the show? It's kind of a new segment we want to open up because I don't want it to feel like, I'm just pushing all the topics to the forefront. I kind of want it to be equal involvement. So any other thing you want to talk about?
I think we touched on this, not the last show, but the show before that. Alabama burning, dog. Alabama, the house is burning for Alabama. I won't be quick on this, but Alabama, that we all know the dynasty over with because Nick Saban gone, but a lot of their recruits are decommitting. A person, because I believe the defensive coordinator from Washington was going to come over with the Washington head coach to
Mhm.
Alabama, but it seemed like he about to take a job in the NFL. So it seemed like Alabama falling apart, while LSU starting to grow like drastically. Like they getting like a lot of 4 and 5 star recruits to come there. So uh, the tides is being shifted in the SEC West, pun intended.
Yeah,
Um, what else I want to? The LSU girls, basketball for basketball. I was hoping they is the season still going on, but man, they playing trash. Angel
yeah.
Reese,
It kind of seemed like they falling apart, you know.
I really think it's because of Haley Van Lit. When she was at Louisville, she played shooting guard. I thought she always played point guard, but she played shooting guard. And the coach didn't let her play point guard because he didn't think she would be good at point guard, which is
Mhm.
one of the reasons why she left and came to LSU. And man, every time I watch the LSU girls, I'm like, bruh, Haley Van Lit looks so slow. When you watch the girls from South Carolina or like Juju Watkins from USC, when you watch even like Auburn, who was like one of the bottom tier teams in the SEC for the women's, like they point guards are quick and fast, and Haley Van Lit just seems so slow. She could shoot, but her defense is horrible, and she's so slow. So it's apparent she can't play point guard. I was kind of saying this for a while. They need to put Flanje Johnson at the point guard and put Haley Van Lit at shooting guard. I want to touch on that. And I don't know if you've seen going back to Derek Carr, they just gave Derek Carr a 2 year extension. He was supposed to
What?
he's supposed to have one more year. Like this upcoming season was supposed to be his last season until we could like cut him. But now they renegotiated his contract to where he has to stay 2 more years in New Orleans. So
Man, hey, bro, that's the worst news I got the whole weekend right there.
oh my bad. See, I was hesitating about saying that, but I was like, he probably know. But apparently you did know. But
Man,
yeah,
no, I ain't gonna lie. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
they they,
Nah,
they renegotiated his contract, and
did he get less money?
I think he probably did. I think it's obviously more favorable financially wise, but the fact that they freeing up money, he's staying here longer. So it's like pick your poison, pay him more money, and he stay here shorter, or pay him less money, he stay here longer.
Yeah, I
The
ain't gonna
good
lie.
news is, I don't know if you've seen who they most likely gonna hire as our offense coordinator.
Yeah. I think you and I kind of talked about it a little bit behind the scenes.
Yeah,
So, if he could do what he did with this glorified game manager over in San Francisco, I mean, I think they could do something decent in New Orleans. But I think the issue is, in terms of the Saints aspect of it, uh, the Saints have been synonymous for this in terms of, you get somebody that's decent, really outside of Breeze. Breeze is kind of like the only real franchise quarterback. I'm talking about in like recent history. And
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie, uh, Aaron Brooks had potential, but once he got the bag, he another one. He just fell off the side of a mountain, and he just seemed like he just wasn't that guy anymore. You know what I'm saying? But in terms of I don't know if you ever played franchise mode Madden wise,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's
yeah.
one thing you do. Like if you over the cap, you give people contract extensions to free up more cap space because deals are progressive. And what I mean by just say you get $2 million this year, the next year you get 4, the next year you get 6, the last year of your deal you get 8 million. So that's why if
It could be broken up into
yeah,
different.
so that's why if everybody contract come up in this one particular year, you might give some people contract extensions, whatever,
Yeah.
because you free up cap space or whatever. But in terms of Derek Carr, man, Derek Carr is not a franchise quarterback. This is one of my fears of them playing well at the end of the season, but not making the playoffs. One, you didn't make the playoffs,
Give that false hope.
and then two, it gives you this false hope and this delusion of like reality. It's delusion. It's not reality. He's not that guy. To me, if he was that guy, he would still be in Las Vegas if he was that guy.
So the thing
So
that I'm thinking about with the 49ers, that quarterback coach is becoming our offensive coordinator. Um, I know the 49ers, they run a lot of shifts, which is why Debo Samuel is so valuable in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
We got two guys I feel like we could shift a lot with, which is Shaheed and Chris Olave.
But
But
yeah,
it's like
but
I'm
Shaheed
also,
isn't
huh?
Shaheed contract up though?
It is.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like they should. I feel like re-signing him is a no-brainer.
but no, but I'm not gonna lie. On the open market, he gonna demand a lot of money, a lot
But
of money.
and maybe that's why Derek Carr took that extension to free up space to re-sign Shaheed.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I saw some rumors saying that they could potentially trade Lattimore, which I don't think would be a bad move
Yeah,
because
because he was hurt for a lot of the season too.
I mean you got to realize. I mean he been injury prone like his whole career, but I think some people might disagree with me. His rookie year was by far his best year.
Best. Yeah, that was by far. You
He
know,
by far his best year, and even then, like going into that season, he was hurt. They was talking about how soft he was, and he was locked down the entire year. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think he's played well in spots. But even if you look at the year when they had him and Jackrabbit together, I felt like Jackrabbit was the better cornerback, even though some people disagreed with me. They were like, "Oh no, I think he was better than Jack." I'm like, "No, why do you think the Tennessee Titans gave Jackrabbit a bag? Because Jackrabbit was that guy. A lot of times they used to put Lattimore on number 2 receiver and put Jackrabbit on number 1
yeah,
receiver.
I remember that. Yep.
So I think at the end of the day, I mean, don't get me wrong, Lattimore a dog,
But
but
Lante Taylor
and and what his name
Austin
is,
Debo,
Paulson the Debo.
and one more other guy, Lante Taylor, Debo, and it's another guy.
Oh, you talking about the young guy? I can't think his name. He played safety. I can't think his name.
No.
But but anyway, I think he got a little value left in terms of trade value. And then on top of that, he getting a lot of money. He overpaid. He a Pro Bowl at this point in his career.
All right.
But I mean, for what you paying him and how often he's hurt, I mean, I think you just might as well just part ways at him and part ways with him, get what you get for him. If you get a 5th, 6th round pick for him, cool. You get you another young cornerback. And, one thing I want to point out too, I feel like Southern had a few players this year that could make it in the NFL. Even if they don't make it in the NFL, they can make it in the XFL, USFL, whatever, and those players are one of your former teammates. Of course, you already know who I'm going.
Tyler.
Kyle Brown, Jalen Campbell, he was a dog at linebacker, even though, I don't think he had the kind of season I thought he would have, but he was an impact player. But out of those 3 players, the player that I think
Wait, what's the third player? You said Taj Brown.
I'm about to tell you now, the third player is Jordan Carter.
That safety, right?
Yeah, the one that had the interception in the Bayou Classic this year and last year. And
Right.
you like, he kind of reminded me of the Honey Badger. I'm like, he could, but I ain't gonna say that. But this year, I'm not gonna lie, he did remind me of when Honey Badger was at LSU. He that guy of all the Southern players. He is, he the highest touted NFL prospect. I'm gonna be truthful. I think the Saints could use, I think they could bring him in. And more than likely, the two of them probably won't get drafted, Jalen Campbell and Jordan Carter. But Jordan Carter, if they parted ways with the Honey Badger, he might be, I think size might be the only thing that really hinder him.
Mm-hmm.
But he a ball hawk. He could be an extra linebacker in the box. He could play on the back end. I'm not gonna lie. I hope they at least, even if he don't, first of all, I hope the 3 of them make it in the NFL. But if he don't get drafted, I hope the Saints really strongly consider bringing him into camp, because I really think he could be a safety that could make their roster,
Right.
But in terms of what you were saying, in terms of Alabama, Coach Prime, a lot of people pointed this out. It was like the reason why Nick Saban retired is because the NIL kind of leveled the playing field. So, what are your thoughts on like the NIL deals kind of leveling the playing field in Alabama not having the competitive advantage they've had in years past?
Facts. Ryan Clark gave one of the best examples that I heard. When you go to when people was going to Alabama, they was going to Alabama for Nick Saban. Now the fact that Nick Saban is no longer there, they don't want to go to Alabama. Because I'm gonna ask you a question: what is in Tuscaloosa, Alabama? Nothing.
Nothing.
All right. So there's no reason for them to go there, and the fact that they have no large corporations, because that's what necessarily in the NIL deals come from. It comes from like those large corporations. That's why you'll see schools like USC got a lot of NIL money, Matter of fact, Tulane, I think me and you was talking about Tulane behind
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Tulane on the come up.
Yeah, because they got a lot of NIL money. Because I didn't even know I didn't know Tom Benson graduated from Tulane.
Wow, really? I didn't even know that.
So that plays a major factor too. And like if your school is in a major city or a city period with a lot of corporations and stuff, you're gonna have a lot of NIL money to build play with. Um, so that played in a factor. But the only thing negative that I see from it is I forgot who was saying this, is that you're gonna have some these guys are still teenagers, so I don't want to call them immature, but it's like they're gonna be worried more about getting an NIL deal before they even prove themselves on the field. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, you don't want to go drop a bag on this 5-star recruit and he come to your university and ends up being a bust, and he getting all this NIL money and stuff like that. So I kind of do agree with that, but for the most part, it does make the playing field fair. It forces coaches to build up their reputation. And that's the thing about Nick Saban. Nick Saban still had a lot of players that wanted, a lot of recruits that wanted to come play for him, but it took some of those recruits away because the NIL deals and stuff like that. Because essentially what you had before was Nick Saban would have like 3 5-star athletes lined up behind each other, just waiting to play. Like you had Tua Tagovailoa, you had Jalen Hurts, both on the same team together. You
Mm-hmm.
had Mac Jones, and like you had all those receivers, Jameson Williams, what's your boy Devontae Smith, and
Henry Ruggs.
Henry Ruggs. You had all these top athletes just lined up, and that's how Alabama was able to reload year after year after year. When the transfer portal opened up even more, like the multiverse, and NIL deals came to play with, man, that leveled out the playing field so much, because dudes are like, man, I'm talented. Why would I wait for 2 years just to play when I could go transfer to this other school and instantly play? And I guess that was causing Nick Saban too many headaches. The game, he basically got to the point where it was a monopoly to him, where he had the game locked down and it was just so simple. He had the perfect formula and he had the reputation. It was almost like he was running his mob, you know what I'm saying? And it got to a point, a new mob family came in town, and they changed the game, and now he retired out the game. So I mean, it's essentially right. The
Yeah,
NIL deal, the transfer portals, all that played a major deal in why Nick Saban left, which is also why LSU beat Nick Saban, not this year but the year before. Jaden
yeah,
Daniels beat Nick Saban, and
yeah.
the result of transfer portal.
And one other thing too that you pointed out, one of our coaching friends used to point this out all the time. He basically said, of course, we talk about, Alabama, they didn't rebuild, they would just reload. They would just bring in more 5-star recruits and this, that, and the third. But he was saying he felt like at that time when Nick Saban was really dominating LSU, he felt one of the differences is the fact that a lot of these guys will be NFL and pro prospects for Alabama, and these guys will be juniors and seniors, and some of them even get redshirted, and they just wait their turn to play at Alabama. You know what I'm saying? I guess they felt like maybe staying at Alabama 3 or 4 years would give them the best chance to make it to the NFL, as opposed to maybe going to another team, maybe like a Florida State or Texas A&M, University of Texas, or Michigan or whatever. I guess maybe they felt like Nick Saban would better prepare them for the NFL. So a lot of guys were willing to really sit and wait their turn, especially if you wasn't like a superstar player. I mean, he talked about guys that at LSU, some of these guys would, they would transfer out after their freshman, sophomore year if they wasn't starting. Whereas at Alabama, these guys would sit and wait their turn. So, I think that's one major component of it that a lot of people, really didn't point out in terms of how these guys were they were literally willing to sit and wait their turn at Alabama. So besides the open topic, like what other thing you wanted to point out?
I mean, that's all the open topics I could think about for right now.
So we're gonna close with this one other thing. My brother pointed out, he pointed out R.I.P. Carl Weathers. For individuals that don't know, most people know him as Apollo Creed in Rocky and Rocky 2, and also in Rocky 3 too. However, me, I kind of more so know him. I don't know if you remember this movie. It might be a little bit before your time. He was in this movie with what our name is Vanity from Vanity 6. He was in this movie called Action Jackson.
I've heard of that movie, but I don't think I've watched it before.
Yeah, I kind of figured you didn't see it. It's a little bit before your time. And one thing I didn't know before he passed, I didn't even know he was from New Orleans, Louisiana. So,
Me
he's from
either.
New
I ain't
Orleans.
know either.
Yeah. So, it's kind of sad, but like I said, I mostly know him for Action Jackson. For y'all individuals that never saw that movie. In fact, that's part of the reason why I call him Jackson Action Jackson, because, Carl Weathers was Action Jackson in this movie. It's a crazy plot to the movie. He kind of like this cop, muscled up, full up guy, and she's kind of like this singer entertainer. I'm not gonna go through the whole plot of the movie, but that's what I kind of know him for more than anything is Action Jackson. So, R.I.P. Carl Weathers. He, I didn't know he was a football player. So much things that
Wait, he was a football player?
Yeah, they say he was a football player also.
I didn't even know that. It's almost like Terry Crews. Like, I know
Yeah.
Crews play football.
Yeah. So, a lot of things that, they pointed out now that he didn't pass. But like I say, RIP to him, condolences to his family. But Ram, give them your closing thoughts and tell them where they could find you on social media.
Yeah, RP Carl Weathers. He also played in the very first Predator movie. I remember watching.
Yeah.
I like that movie, the one with Steven Seagal in it, and it was like, "You one ugly."
No, that's not Steven Seagal. That's
Sylvester Stallone.
No,
man.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, man, look at me, man.
Yeah. So Jesse the Body Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the movie.
Yeah, I was thinking of Arnold Schwarzenegger's face, but I don't know why I stayed.
But I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people do that. They mix up Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. They mix them up. So
and he also played in another show that I watched. I know most of y'all probably don't watch this show, but it's a Star Wars show called The Mandalorian. He played in that show as well too. So I guess they're gonna have to write him out if they probably already didn't already. But that's RP Carl Weathers. But my closing remarks is yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed the show today. The topics that we discussed. Where y'all can find me at Ray Swank 225 on YouTube. I give good words and good messages. If you want to ever hit a word or the gospel or anything, I do upload beats and stuff as well. If you like music and stuff like that, so y'all can find me on YouTube if you're interested in listening or watching any of those things. You can find me on Instagram _King Ray with 2 Y's on the Ray, followed by another underscore. Yeah, so that's pretty much where y'all can find me. Subscribe. Reach out or whatever. But yeah, enjoyed the show. Enjoyed the comments, the feedback. The information that people were telling us, and yeah, continue to support and tune in.
Well, of course, first and foremost, it was an excellent show. Great dialogue, great conversation, great back and forth between Raymond and myself. And, we appreciate everybody that came through and showed some love in the chat. My brother Jared O'Levin Green, Jay Barr, Living Big with Big Rich. We appreciate everybody that came through, relaxing, calm, rain, motivation to be a millionaire. We appreciate everybody that came through to show us some love. We appreciate everybody that's been rocking with us since day one. Whether you're a Ravens fan, whether you're a member of Jaguar Nation, whether you're a member of the LDBC, or anybody just dropping through because they like the content or whatever the case may be. We appreciate everybody that's been supporting us, been rocking with us since day one. Whether you're a new subscriber, whether you've been with us, we appreciate everybody that's been coming through, showing some love. And of course, you can find me here on YouTube at Coach 67 Sports TV. Cool 67 Sports TV on all social media platforms, on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on all these social media platforms. Like Raymond said, also catch him here on YouTube, Racewing 225. He gives excellent messages. He's, he speaks the gospel. He's motivational. So y'all check him out also. We appreciate everybody that's been, dropping in and supporting us. It was an excellent show. We appreciate everybody that came through. Also, check out myself and my brother Jerry Lovin Green on his channel tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the Southern Baller Show. We're going to talk about the upcoming Super Bowl. We're going to talk about some HBCU news, so on and so forth. We appreciate everybody that came through, show some love. This was episode 31 of Bayou Sports Talk. We'll catch y'all on the rebound. Y'all have a blessed and phenomenal evening, blessed and phenomenal weekend. We'll catch y'all on the rebound. Peace and blessings.